it gets hard. I think that's the one thing that people don't realise about business, and certainly property development. It's risky, it's difficult. You need to be able to weather storms together.
Yeah, and I've talked about this before, that I think there is this perception that it's the Maserati out in the front and your Rolex watch, but actually the reality is it's 18-hour days and stress, and
you hate it, but you wouldn't have it any other way.
Hello everyone, welcome to Behind the Awards, the Property Investors Awards podcast. I am your host, Nellie McQuinn. I am a previous Property Investors Awards winner. I have many hats, and I'm currently a will writer. My company, Away Will, sponsors this show. And I have got some amazing guests. We've got two guests today. I'm absolutely delighted to have Jack and Ben from XP Property. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Thank you for being here. I'm really excited about this chat. I think it's going to be great.
Not sure where it's going to go.
Who knows? I have notes, but I don't think I'm going to need them very much. You guys are podcasters also. You do your own podcast.
We do, yeah. It's called the Property Experts Podcast, and that's experts with an XP.
XP. Property. I like when you do that.
Almost 3 years now, actually,
wow.
Where we share the trials and tribulations every week on a Friday. Around sort of 8 to 10 topics that have been sort of happening in that week, and hopefully share a bit of value to people and stop making the mistakes that we've made. And
we've been loyal as well. I think we've only not recorded 3 out of the 3 years.
That's
even
amazing.
On holidays.
I saw it popped up on my phone. You were on Halloween evening doing one last.
We were.
Yeah, doing
I had to nip off to go trick or treating with my son.
I was going to say, how did you manage the trick or treat juggle?
Yeah, I was late.
Yeah. Okay.
All the sweets were gone.
Oh no. Right. So you guys have got an immense portfolio in terms of strategies. That was definitely one thing that struck me when looking into XP and you guys. But let's take it back a bit. How did you both get into property? Because you both were working in other companies before you came together. Tell me a bit about how that worked.
You want to go?
Yeah, I'll start off. So I'm actually third generation in construction. So my grandfather on my mum's side ran a construction business, which still runs today.
Wow.
And my dad on my side, so separate to my granddad, ran a building company, and then latterly a plant and tool hire company. So every house I grew up in as a child was a knockdown rebuild. We lived in the garden in a static caravan.
Okay.
It's
in your blood.
Yeah, my mum always reminds me of a story where I was up 3 stories of scaffold with a cigarette butt hanging out my mouth at like 4 years old.
Great.
So I grew up very much around that, but my dad, who wasn't as well educated, you could say, always said to me, earn your money with your head, not your hands. So I went to university, did business and marketing degree.
Yeah.
Ran a few businesses. I knew I was definitely entrepreneurial growing up, and my mind worked very different. Buying and selling things on eBay and selling sweets at school is like the classic cliche, but we did a bit of that.
Yeah.
And then I went to work in a sales office, which is kind of what leads for my role in the development company. I work in the sales and acquisitions side of things.
Okay.
I didn't really like the office environment. I was also running a small contractual business doing garage conversions, bit of landscaping. While I was working in the office, I had labourers working every day, and then I'd make a markup on their rate, and they would clean up people's gardens, landscaping, whatever it may be. So I quit that job, and that day was on a building site on the tools, back to my roots. And after a few projects, I really wanted to grow and scale bigger than just a project at a time. So I was doing it the very old school way, no banks involved, all cash.
Okay.
Buy cash, build cash, sell one, and then when you get the cash back, do another.
Yeah.
And that was pretty successful, but I wanted to do more. I wanted to get off the tools and manage 5 or 6 projects at any given time. And that's when I met Ben, and we sort of formed the various businesses.
Amazing. So that's like in your DNA. That's kind of grown up around it. Really probably didn't have a choice in terms of the industry you were going to go into. Ben, what about you?
My professional life has always been in property.
Yep.
So my degree was in architectural engineering.
Yep.
So I've always been around design, construction, property, that sort of stuff. 16 years old, I was labouring for my dad's neighbour and stuff like that. And, then from a technical perspective, that was the degree, that was what I trained to do. So sure. I've always been in that side of things. I've worked for architects, I've worked for structural engineers. I used to work for the Berkeley Group, which is where I learned more about property development than I think I had done the previous 10 years, for example. spot of poker in the mix. I graduated from uni and played poker for a living, which many people know. But
oh my gosh, I wouldn't go into that. That's amazing. You were a professional poker player for a year.
That was my sole income. Yeah, I was online poker predominantly, so 3 or 4 days a week. I'd be up from 6 o'clock in the evening.
Okay, never mind property. I have so many questions about that. Yeah. That's amazing.
There's so much overlap. Like I've done this in a presentation before. I've got like a photo of poker, risk management.
Yeah, I was going to say, surely that
the
risk.
Photo with a property, and I'm like,
same thing.
Pretty much same list.
Yeah, wow.
Which is it's helped me sort of manage those risks and look at strategy, look at bankroll, financial management, that type of thing. So yeah, there's
so architecture, poker player,
then back to what I studied.
Property, and you still do architecture, but now we have XP properties.
Correct. I run an architectural practice. So my life after the Berkeley Group was business ownership and entrepreneurship. So I started Aura Architecture first, and that's now eight years running as a team of 10. We do almost about £1 million in revenue, and that services XP Property as well.
Brilliant.
And then XP Property was born a year after that, and then we've set up various businesses since then. So we're a bit of an ecosystem of businesses. Yeah,
it really does feel like you've got sort of I have to say it, jack of all trades. Like it kind of writes itself, right? I'm sure you've heard that many of times. But it feels like you're master of all. Doesn't feel like there's master of none at all in there. Tell me a little bit about the different companies that you have, because you not only do you have multiple strategies within XP, you've got multiple companies as well doing different things. So I like to do multiple things at once, but this is kind of next level.
Yeah, I mean, they all feed into each other. So I mentioned the architectural practice, that obviously feeds into the design of XP Property and what we do from that perspective. 5 years ago, I said to Jack, I was being serviced by measured building surveyors. And the service that I was being provided wasn't great. I was like, there's got to be a better way of doing this. It's a very high-tech industry, but in a very old-school world where it's like middle-aged blokes and that's it, and it's very slow. So I said to Jack, we could do that better. We set up a measured building surveying practice 5 years ago now called XP Surveys, and that's grown to sort of team of 6+, about £500,000 in revenue, and we're looking to really scale that nationwide over the next couple of years.
Wow, okay.
So we've got sort of surveying at the start, architecture, design, and then the delivery, which is XP Property, and then Jack's got a business as well with his brother.
Yeah, so about a year, similar sort of age to XP Property. My brother was working for a service accommodation and a HMO provider, and I've always loved HMOs. I think they're such a catered model, and even I wanted to do them since even I was living in one at university.
Wow.
And my brother, I'd say to him, what was your one like? And it was like mold everywhere, heating didn't work, landlords are tired and don't want to spend money on it.
Classic crappy HMO.
So we set up Central Suites, which is predominantly a HMO management business that buys our own HMOs, develops them. It also develops and helps develop some for XP Property. So XP Property deliver HMOs in our portfolio, and then Central Suites manages them. And we also flip houses and build portfolio for silent investors as well. So the surveying, design, delivery and management.
Yeah, you're a one-stop shop.
Yeah, I mean, it comes with its benefits. You can keep a lot more control. We're a lot quicker than others. We can get things through our business a lot quicker because the surveyor knows the management person. They can communicate directly. The downsides are, if you have a cash flow problem in one business, you might delay an invoice in another and then it sort of passes on.
Down the chain.
So it has pros and cons. We like the fact that we can keep a lot of fees in-house. And, to sort of paint a picture, to set up our surveying business, we're already turning over enough in value in what our existing structure would pay to hire someone. So it's a very low risk vertical integrations to go into.
You're paying it anyway, you might as well make it your own hire.
Exactly. Yeah. So year one we turned over about 100 grand, and that was really without any business development or marketing. We were just kind of letting everyone know what we did, and we had our own work.
Using the services yourself.
Yeah, and same with Aura, we're a minority of the client base. It's grown itself, and that organically was a good start.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So we've got surveys, we've got architecture, we've got the build, we literally have from one end to the other, and the management as well. Has that been a sort of a conscious strategy to do that, or has it sort of evolved naturally and accidentally?
I wanted to set up Aura straight out of the Berkeley Group as a cash flowing business. Development I know is extremely lumpy. So for me, I wanted something that was going to pay my lifestyle. It was something I could build that fed into everything else that we were doing. I still enjoyed doing. I still like creating. About 70% of our business is private resi homeowner stuff, and then 30% is private property developers like XP that we service in Aura. But I knew from day one that I needed something that was more fast in terms of cash flow, because development is the opposite. So that was a very conscious thing, and my sort of only goal within the first few years of Aura was to get myself out of it as soon as possible. So that was where building the team, building the systems, the processes, the marketing funnels, that for me in the first couple of years of Aura was my guiding light, basically. Free myself up from time so that I could focus more on the development stuff within XP Property.
Right. I must say, Maple Lodge, is it Maple
Rise?
Rise. Oh, that extension is divine.
Yeah, looking forward to
love that.
Getting that finished.
That's beautiful.
There's some for sale if you'd like one.
Oh, yeah. Are you talking about the Aura one?
Yeah, the Aura one.
The private house with the
big external cantilever.
Yes, that is Maple Lodge. Yeah. Massive piece of glass.
Divine. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I will take that.
They craned that over the house. 500 kgs of glass craned over the house. Yeah.
That's like...
Yeah, heavy stuff.
Yeah. Were you on site for that to happen?
I wasn't. No.
I don't know if my nerves would handle that, watching that much glass go over my house. That's stressful. Okay, so systems and processes. Let's dig into that, because it's not very sexy.
No.
Is a good old system. I love them. I love a good system and a good process. You need them. Not very sexy, but it feels like it's kind of the foundation really to how you guys are able to manage so many different elements from beginning to end. What do your systems and processes look like? What tools do you use? Is there any advice you can give for people looking to scale? Because I personally don't believe you can scale without systems and processes.
Yeah,
so
go for that one.
Tell us a bit about that.
I'll start off with like team members and hiring. There's a lot of entities or businesses that like to grow and be extremely lean. Obviously, we be as lean as we can as far as a workforce goes. But with a business plan, you have certain heads that you need, and that comes from a organogram of what you are now, where you want to go, and then hiring the right people in the right process. And I think one thing we learned actually from our non-exec advisor to do is when you build the requirements of a role, that literally is like itemized out for what that person needs to be carrying out as a task into a job description. So when someone's reading it on a job board, they read that's right for me, and that's how you hire the best talent into those roles. But then those output tasks then go into their reviews. So we've built a team of almost 30 people across all 4 or 5 businesses, if you want to look at it, the trading entities, and we've been growing the team since we set up the business. So I think that's I know that's not really like a CRM system, but we can come on to that. But without the team who can also build the systems processes, and you give them a goal of what we want to achieve, we've been very focused on the staffing that can help us get to where we need to go, because to manage all of those businesses you need fundamental people that can manage the day-to-day and do some of the things that we can't do because we haven't got the time.
It's interesting as well, because I do think hiring makes or breaks. And again, it's not very sexy. I don't, you get into property development and, some people love the interiors, some people, are sort of in the construction side, but actually hiring systems and processes, a good CRM is probably foundational.
You absolutely need that. If you're going to scale, if you're going to grow, if you're going to sort of remove yourselves as kind of directors of the business to focus on the high value stuff, you need people to do that day-to-day operations. And it's one of the hardest things I think in business, the HR side of stuff, getting the right people. And one person that isn't right can it's toxic. It flows through everything in a negative way.
Toxic, but also it's such a time suck. I had a team at its height of sort of 150, nearly 200 people. And honestly, HR and managing people was about 75% of my time, just the people. So it's great to hear that you guys seem to have a really good process, because it can just send you down a wrong path, right?
I mean, people have come and gone. Out of those 30 that we have now, I'd say between us, we've probably hired 50 plus. People have come and gone. Some of their own free will, others because they've been
not quite right,
moved on. But it is incredibly important to get the right team, and when you have that right team, when you have like A players within that team, it's 1 + 1 = 3 type vibe, rather than it's just sort of 1 + 1.
Even before we went into hiring a team, we've always been very organised on basically like a project management tool, we call it, but not as a project managing and building a development, but like a tech platform, whether that's Asana or Monday.com.
Okay.
And even before the team came in, we've always split the business into 5 areas to go through in weekly team meetings, or if you don't need weekly team meetings, which are slower paced business like the development company, if we did a weekly team meeting, we'd be like, still waiting on planning, still waiting on the council,
waiting on planning,
still waiting on the bank, still waiting on the lawyer, see you next week.
Yeah, exactly.
But those,
as before.
So those project management tools are really, really useful to go through, almost like a run through on the business requirements, which is typically like sales, marketing, operations, finance and talent, so the team. And then we break each project down between sort of securing and acquisitions to structure, funding, design, development, exit, sell and exit, or management. And across both those boards, we can look at the business, where, what does everyone in the team need to work on today to, push the business forward, and then what does everyone need to do per project. And obviously the acquisitions team won't get involved in a project once it's past acquisitions technically, and the acquisitions team will solely deal with the deal pre-acquisition. So it's kind of breaking out who does what.
So it's really structured in terms of who does what and their skill set, and then handing it on to the next team.
And then we have, where it breaks down for Ben and I, is the team can go and do what they need to do. They know the goals and the objectives of their week and what that looks like. They've obviously got their own sort of document of job title, but also they know where everything is in the business. And then we can sort of do an internal meeting, get a whistle-stop tour of what needs to be chased, all the high-value tasks that we can do, whether it's chase for money, negotiate a contract, or whatever it may be. Exactly.
Yeah. So it sounds very foundational in terms of to exit. When I speak to founders who have scaled and exited, the one thing that I find, there's a few things that are sort of across all of them, but I find that most successful exited founders have these amazing systems and foundations. Is exiting on the cards for you? Do you ever think about that?
There's a brilliant book called Build to Sell, or is it Built to Sell or Build to Sell? One or the other. But
Built to Sell, I think.
We'll find it and put it in the show notes.
The prospect of it is that you should always, whether you're planning to exit or sell or not, you should be building like you are, because then you do build the foundations really strong, really well. You build systems and processes that we've just spoken about. So I mean, with XP surveys, for example, that is absolutely something that we have spoken about in terms of we're building this to exit at some point.
Okay.
It's something that I would love to sort of get to the point with XP surveys where I was, if for argument's sake, I was in 5 years with Aura at X revenue with X margin, I want to be XP surveys there in 3. So taking the lessons that I've learned in Aura, putting them into XP surveys, and Jack and I going and growing that business a lot further and faster. And that is something that's scalable business model. We're looking to take that nationwide, talking about systems and processes. We are actively building our own internal management tool that then turns into a client portal, turns into a freelancer marketplace. That is something that we're looking to grow, and ultimately that has scalability and it has a value to it, because that is the sort of stuff that gives you, the higher multiples on exit and all that sort of stuff. So XP surveys, absolutely. I think XP property, we'll sort of continue growing, building an asset base alongside the developments that we do. Aura, there's probably an exit of some kind in there at some point, but I've been looking more at EOT, which is a employee ownership trust. So effectively you're sort of selling it to your employees. There's
your
a great team that we've got there that could take it on. It's very tax advantageous for the director as well. And then Central Suites, I guess you're just building that to build the asset base.
With Central Suites, it's kind of like a service-based business across various different businesses, but it's portfolio business. So it's, if you exit that, you're probably exiting the portfolio in some capacity. We much more saw it as, I think there's a growing gap in the market for HMOs. I actually did a presentation on it last week, that I just think that as the affordability gap grows, that people between the age of moving out from mum and dad and buying their own home, it's getting harder and harder.
I was going to say,
HMOs have a bad rap, but we are, our award-winning stock is the cheapest thing on the market. So why isn't that growing market, which it is? But I think ours was much more build that product and get the reputation we need to in the areas that we do. We've monopolized the areas that we've set up a portfolio in, and it was more of a lifestyle business. So we'll see where it takes us. We're not really sure on where that will go yet.
So we're just going to take a quick break, and we're going to do a mid-roll for our sponsor, Away Wills, which is my company. So stay tuned.
You plan every deal, every renovation, every exit. But have you planned what happens after you?
You spend years, everything you've got, building your empire. But if something goes wrong, all that hard work needs protecting.
That's why I connected with Away Wills, so my property portfolio was protected.
Dad, look!
For these rascals.
And the founder is a property developer, just like us.
Didn't even have to explain what an HMO was.
At Away Wills, we cut through the jargon and get to what matters, protecting what you've built and the people you love.
Contact Away Wills for a no-obligation chat about protecting your property empire today. www.awaywills.com.
HMOs, I feel, are a bit like Marmite. The people either love them or hate them. It's really interesting hearing people's different viewpoints. You're obviously a big fan. What is it about HMOs that you like in particular?
So to give you an example, I live in Henley-on-Thames, which is a really high capital value area, and we produced the first professional HMO there. And
really?
Yeah, it's only a town of 17,000 people, so it's not a huge town. And in doing so, all of the neighbours were up in arms. They called the council and making complaints that HMO's going in there, and they caught wind of that, and they're worried about parking and all of these types of things. We then finished the site because they had no right. We don't need planning to do it, so we converted the six bed HMO in the space, and then we essentially, what the people complaining didn't know is the local council sometimes pull on my expertise to advise them on various different stock that they own.
Right.
So I got the inside scoop that these complaints have been made.
Put through.
And essentially we finished the HMO and we hosted an open day. We were like, let's invite all the neighbours around to show them what we've delivered.
Kill them with kindness, basically.
Exactly. So we put on some, cakes and sandwiches, and then we had every man and their dog round in the kitchen asking us about everything. And 6 months later, I met up with the council to discuss a completely different project, and everyone that had put forward a complaint previously called back in and rescinded their complaint and said that they like what's been achieved there.
Done.
And that's kind of like the full circle of, if you don't understand something, it can it's you kind of need to see it in the flesh of it. And then if you interviewed our tenants, they will be like, this is perfect. I'm paying £800 for a room. I can leave when I want. That's saving me £700 per month if I rented a 1-bedroom flat in Henley-on-Thames. So I'm £8,000 better off on a deposit every year.
Yeah.
The product's better than a tired landlord because they get more communal space. Yeah. There's a cinema room in that property.
Right.
The management is good.
Can I move in?
It's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah. We haven't got any vacancies at the moment, which is one of the
problems.
Right.
I don't know if HMO is right for my husband and 2 children and dog as well, but that it's really interesting. I do think that people hear, certainly the general public hear HMO and think ratty kind of torn curtains and threadbare carpet, and that is a general sort of
and that's what my student HMOs were like.
But I think that's
times
probably,
have changed, I think.
But I also think that a lot of the people in the general public, if any experience they've had with HMOs
it's been bad.
Was when they were living in student digs where you've got cigarette burns on the carpet and it smells like beer. That they have a place, I'm sure, but now HMOs are looking swish. They're really nice.
And the circles that we're in, and the property investor awards and everything you see on social media, because we follow the right type of people. There's amazing people doing amazing things in the HMO space. And they all look insane. They've got
there's show home ready.
More paneling on the walls than a lot of the developments that we design.
We actually have some rent to HMO. We're slowly phasing them out in our portfolio, but we early on took on quite a few rent to HMO models because it was quick cash flow that we could scale the team and build the team. We're slowly handing those back, and it's because the old landlords aren't doing the works that are up to our standard. So we would say this needs replacing, and they're saying no, and we're saying, well, we don't want to let this property. So we're actually coming to terms with how we took on the contracts. As we said, your property's been up for rent for 6 months, you haven't had any luck, give us 6 months rent free and we'll spend 10 grand on it, and then we'll let it out. But there's certain things we can't do, like structural works or upgrading the property fabric is something that we can't really expend it. So we've offered to buy the property off them, but they're just saying no, we don't want to put money into it, and it's like, well, you get less rent, so it's a vicious cycle, and that builds that bad stigma. But they're getting pushed out of the market because of the tax changes. So
and also I think because so many people like you guys are coming up with these amazing units that actually it doesn't stack up for the shoddy HMO landlords.
Nobody wants those anymore.
Yeah, they don't.
They're willing to pay a
don't.
little bit more for an ensuite. And
exactly.
good
And
broadband.
And paneling.
And paneling.
Exactly. You've got to have your paneling and your
I
quartz worktop.
I love HMOs because I don't have to manage them. I just hand it over to
I don't know if I could manage an HMO. I do love property.
You have to have the processes and the ops in place.
Back to processes and staff. HMOs feels like that's kind of the peak of needing all of that. 100%. So we've got HMOs, we've got surveys, we've got architecture, we've got development, we've got it all. We've got management, we've got absolutely everything. You mentioned, Ben, that it was a strategy. Has that strategy of having that cash flow and that bedrock, let's be honest, the market is not fun right now. It's I don't know if I'm allowed to swear, but it's a mess. I probably can't use the words I want to use. Has that helped? Is that strategy of having that diversification helped in a time when it is so tumultuous out there?
It absolutely has, and it goes back to that kind of, the reason I set up Aura is that cash flow, that faster cash flow coming in. It's not to say it hasn't been difficult the last year, because most architectural practices have been struggling, but ultimately for the last 8 years, the sort of lifestyle really is paid for by those businesses, by those service-based businesses. Because the property development stuff is incredibly lumpy, it's risky. The last year or so has been horrendous, and we're selling the most stock we've ever sold, which is probably the worst time to sell that stock in the last 8 years.
But how do you not? Some of them you just can't avoid.
Our scheme in Muswell Hill, we can't really refinance that because the yield is awful. With interest rates where they are, it's just not going to happen. So those service-based businesses and having that diversified kind of portfolio is needed. Jack mentioned earlier kind of the pros and cons of things. I go through my outstanding invoice list with my ops director in Aura, and it's XP. So when I get paid for this, Ben. But I get control of that at least, and know it's money that I know is coming in at some point. I just get to control when. It definitely has helped having that split. Would I say that we've probably spread ourselves too thin at times? Yes, but I think generally that's sort of how ambitious we are, and
back to
we
your
like
poker playing.
Yeah, I think there's a real sort of spread of risk. We've got the team to deliver. Could we have done a few things less? Yeah, I think we could have done, which could have helped us do other things better. But ultimately, we like to strive for ambition. We're very sort of growth centric, and we like being busy. We're workaholics generally. Although we've both now got kids, so it's sort of a bit different. But
you've got work in a different way. Let's just clarify that you've got another job now. Being dads.
Yes, exactly that. The sort of service-based businesses definitely have helped us weather a few of the storms in the property space, because it has been tough the last couple of years.
It's been rough.
I think there's a lot to be said about management. Like, a lot of people looking in will just think, right, you've got an architectural business that's making profit every month, you've got a surveying business that's making profit every month, and you've got developments that might make a profit one day, and you've got HMO management, which has potentially cash flow and profit. But we integrated quite a robust management accounts systems into every business. So every month, Ben and I go through P&L and balance sheet on every single one of our companies.
Wow.
And make sure that everything's moving in the right direction, and we know that if we've got any debtors, creditors, where that sits. And there's some, we've been 200 grand shy on 100 per project, but on 2 different projects, because HMRC weren't processing a VAT return that came in almost a year late on both businesses.
A year late.
You can't plan for that, and that's not where we've messed up.
No, that's not mismanagement.
And we're not getting paid for something. That's our capital that's stuck in probably the worst pocket. Because we can't go around there and be like, we need paying. Otherwise,
take it.
The shoe was on the other foot. But so you can't plan for those. So you've always got to be really on your onions with cash flow management. And it's all well and good having a slightly profitable business, but we always look at things as cash flow and profit. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of people in the market that don't look at the profit and keep cash flowing something that isn't going to be technically there. So it's really important. You've got to understand every line item in every business from a balance sheet perspective as well as a cash flow perspective, because it's pointless cash flowing a business unless there's profit in it, which is where you get muddled with a development company, because you can cash flow a project. But if there isn't margin there, you probably need to change tact. And we're always thinking about creatively, should we sell that or keep that and do this and do this. Then we look at the return on cash on that particular asset, whether it's a commercial unit in our development or whether it's a HMO in our development, and making monthly decisions that are quite pivotal in keeping everything moving.
It's really interesting that you talk about cash flow like that, because I hear a lot cash flow is key. Like it's king, cash flow. Don't get me wrong, of course, if you don't have money coming in, you can't pay your bills, you're screwed. But to hear you say, actually, yes, cash flow is important, but what is it in aid of? What is that out at the end? I think is very valuable advice, because I do think there's a lot out there about the cash flow, but ultimately if it's coming in, going out, great, but what's at the end of it? Are you making money? So you guys are all over the numbers every month, sitting down.
You have to be in every business. We brought somebody in about 3 years ago to help us kind of overhaul because it's a mess at the moment. Our group structure is massive, so we've got loads of different businesses. Each project has its own SPV set up, so you can imagine we've probably got
I was going to say, how many SPVs?
I wouldn't say it was a mess. It's just a lot going on.
There's just a lot going on.
You know, if we told you like the top to the bottom, you'd be like, okay, too much.
And that's just multiple SPVs in each different company.
It took our accountants 9 months to kind of get their head around it to a point where they've sort of got the history. Now they can advise going forward. That, it's just there's a lot going on, especially with all the other businesses as well. But I think one of the things that, and we sort of touched on it earlier, with I think mistakes that a lot of property investors, property developers start with is that they're very project centric. They don't think about the wider business behind it. So they think, I'm doing this project.
I'm going from project to project.
This is it, project to project, project. Whereas they don't think about the wider business behind those individual projects. And that's, I think, in the first couple of years for us, we were probably doing that. Whereas we were like, no, the XP Property has a business on top of all of these companies. We have overheads in this business, the managing business, and all the SPVs kind of feed into that. And we need to think about this top business because that's effectively the main business that we're operating.
Yeah, the master business.
Yeah, so I think that's definitely a key learning, that a lot of investors will get stuck into projects and not think about their business behind it. So having some business nous is definitely key to growing and being profitable.
And what other advice would you give? That's a great nugget, But what else would you? We both have many years. Any other nuggets?
Pull someone in that's doing it and been doing it for a while before you. So talking about our group structure, our tax advisor was a tax advisor for a massive not offshore as in financial offshore, as in like wind farm company. Right. So we've technically got the same structure as a £30 billion company. But it all
Aim
works.
High.
It all works.
Aim high.
No, that's not where we're going with this. It's too windy, apparently. But that's kind of the structure. So we've got the right tax advice to put the structure in place for the inevitable future or whatever that may be. We've had a business coach in XP Survey since we set up the business.
A business coach.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's sometimes I feel like, and this may sound a bit big-headed, but that's not where I'm coming from. Ben and I are actually giving the value in those sessions, because we're quite fast thinking, we're quite creative, we kind of know what we want, but they're driving that conversations and for you to reflect.
Bring it out. They're bringing it out of you.
They ask the challenging questions or push you.
Basically, you go to therapy.
It does feel like that sometimes.
Yeah, couples therapy.
Yeah, couples therapy. Great, I love it. Everyone should have couples therapy with their business partner.
That is, business coaching is. I've had it almost from day one in Aura, and the reason that we have an XP surveys is like we have to have this.
Yeah.
And it's once a quarter is enough to kind of just 2 hours with Jack and I and some of our team just to come in, talk through those 5 elements: the marketing, sales, finance, operations, HR, talent, and just have that helicopter view on the business, because when you're in the weeds day to day, nothing really gets done or moved forward. You're just running the treadmill and firefighting basically. So you need to give yourself the freedom to have those 2 or 3 hours every month, every quarter, whatever it may be, to think about the business.
Sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees sometimes when you're in it, right? That's hard.
And then we have a non-exec advisor for the whole group.
Yeah.
So once we've done a business coaching at the bottom level or spoken to our tax advisor on some acquisition movements, we'll then have typically a quarterly non-exec advisor who comes in, managed over 500 businesses, got all the grey hair, you won't mind me saying that, knows us personally, so he knows how we operate personally, where our areas that we need support, and will meet up with us independently if we need to. But we've never been afraid of putting capital into people that can help guide us, and also education. So we've never stopped trying to educate ourselves in many capacities. We see it as like an almost forever growing learning curve, really. And that's enabled us to sit down, look at the thing, bounce ideas off each other and come up with ideas. Like for an example, in our business coaching, Ben mentioned sales, marketing, operations, finance and team as the sections we'll go through. But in sales, we'll be working out our cost per acquisition, what our gross profit margin is to see if we can change our pricing, whether we should push for market share at that point or whether we should push for relationship building, how we're communicating with existing and new clients, how we're grading those clients, what platforms we're on, who's actually doing the sales. So we go that, not just looking at house sales, it's we're
digging
looking at 10 options, pick one,
point.
Problems, bottlenecks, pushing it into our team and saying where are we failing, and then the sales team might go, we're not delivering quick enough, so I can't sell the product if the delivery's not right enough. Then we go to the delivery team and say, in the same meeting, we'll go to lead surveyor and be like, how can we improve the turnaround? And then it's easier to sell. So it's kind of like constant, continuous improvement. But we're basically problem solvers. So we just find the problem and then help the team correct it, and then
firefighters.
Come
that's
back.
what you fight fires, and that's
Constantly.
That's the profession, right?
Every property investment starts with a vision. Once your vision becomes your reality, it deserves the right protection. Whether you're building from the ground up, managing investment properties, or growing your real estate portfolio, Horner Blakey Insurance Brokers helps protect your property and business at all stages, because great investments deserve expert protection. Horner Blakey Insurance Brokers, specialists in protecting your future today.
Interesting that we talk about and we joke about marriage counseling, but finding a partner in business like this, that's not easy, and it is a marriage, really. You look at, you've got 16, 17 SPVs, you said. You probably got more ties in terms of paperwork with each other than you do with your respective partners, your actual spouses. I know you met at a networking event. How did you know that this was the marriage for you? How did that work?
Early days, I think both our wives were saying that we speak to each other more than we speak to them.
It's true. When you've got a business, you've got that passion. You're like,
less
I need
so nowadays because we're
to,
relatively autonomous. But early days, it definitely was. But we met at a networking event. I think we'd met each other before that. But the program that we met on was like a 12-month kind of educational platform.
Okay, so it was a long-term thing. So you got to know each other.
Yeah, we had the same mentor, and after sort of 2 or 3 months of being mentored separately by the same person, they said, look, you're operating in similar areas. I think you'd get on well, and then meet up and have a chat, and that's sort of where it started, I guess.
So
met
the matchmaker.
Met for coffee, and then we sort of spent probably 9 months, 12 months, to sort of getting familiar with kind of each other, working together, stacking deals, going on viewings, just sort of seeing how it may sort of play out. And then after that point, it was like, this feels like it's going
so you
the right way.
started dating.
We courted for
a bit, and then you
made sure we took it slow.
Don't want to rush into anything.
Exactly that.
And then the marriage happened.
Yeah,
and XP was born.
Yeah, and I think kind of at that point we'd secured our first deal. I had a deal that I'd been working on anyway that Jack came into, which we crowdfunded actually early on, which was interesting. And it just sort of snowballed from there, I guess. I think we both made sure that we had the same sort of vision and the same kind of wants and needs. Like we went away and did sort of 10-year, what's your 10-year goals? What's your 10-year vision? Came back, sort of discussed each other's, and we're like, okay, that's very similar in terms of what we want to achieve from life and family and stuff like that, which is massively important. I think with JV partnerships, you have to have aligned goals and striving for the same thing, because it gets hard. I think that's the one thing that people don't realize about business, and certainly property development. It's risky, it's difficult, you need to be able to weather storms together. So having that common goal is massive.
You're in the trenches. It's mucky.
It's very mucky.
Yeah, and I've talktalked about this before, that I think there is this perception that it's the Maserati out the front and your Rolex watch, but actually the reality is it's 18-hour days and stress and stressed phone calls to each other when you are literally kind of at the bottom of the at the bottom of your journey.
It's sort of glutton for punishment. You hate it, but you wouldn't have it any other way. That's just kind of like
the entrepreneur in you. Yeah, that's entrepreneurship, right?
It is in a nutshell.
We had one of the other guests, we were talking about that buzz when something starts, you know, that sort of sparkle when you set something up, and although it's kind of beating you around the face, you're also like, I just kind of want more of it, right?
Yeah, passion.
It is. It's passion. I don't think we do it for any other reason.
Resilience is I think the word we use quite regularly.
Resilience.
You need to be very resilient in business, because stuff goes wrong all the time. Like you say, you are a chief firefighter. And you have to be able to kind of take that on the chin and, you know, not shift blame or point the finger. Problems need to be solved, and you need to crack on and do it. And you have to be of the right mentality to want to do what we do.
But that's what makes it so incredible that you guys work together clearly so well. Is, you know, I'm sure there's obviously been spats, I'm sure, but it's that not placing blame, and it's being in it together, which I think
because things will go wrong,
and without a doubt. You
know, it doesn't matter, you know, whether it's a investment partner of ours or, you know, us. Things will go wrong, and I think if your expectation is that it isn't going to, you know, it's just setting yourself up from failure from day one. You have to expect that things are going to go wrong, and it's how you deal with those things that make you better. We have
like a break it and fix it mentality in the businesses. So when you say spats, we actually haven't had like a full personal argument ever.
Love that.
We disagree on things.
Yeah,
and
that's
the team
healthy,
always
right?
go, Mum and Dad are fighting
again.
Yeah.
I've had that.
And typically when we do disagree, I'll let Ben take the decision, or Ben will let me take the decision, and we'll put money on it. We'll put a $5 on it. So we'll go, Ben will be like, I think this is the right idea, and I'll be like, I think this is the right idea, and we'll go $5 on it. Cool. Shake hands. Go with one of the decisions, otherwise you can't find out.
Can't go forward.
And you let it run, and if it breaks and you have to fix it, that's part of it.
Okay, so are we actually handing over $5s though? Do we, or is that like a loose thing? Who's winning? I'm curious to know.
I don't know, actually.
Oh, is it kind of equal?
It's not something we really keep count on, is it?
No,
it must be quite equal.
It's more of like
just
a way of doing things, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's also to encourage. I always say to my team, rather than if you procrastinate and don't make a decision, I'd have rather you made the wrong decision and fix it. So we can't try and keep that autonomous, just decision making going forward, because they're never going to always be right.
No, I think it's ignorant to think that every decision is going to be right, because let's be honest, we're humans and we make wrong decisions, and that's especially in business, and even more so in property, especially when there are also so many external factors. You think about, you know, a budget announcement, and you think about interest rates, and you think about HMRC having 200k of your money, your cash flow in their accounts. There's so much that can go wrong. I think that giving people permission to mess up is one of the best things you can do as a manager. And
there are too many variables,
space.
like you say. So, you know, in business and property, there's so many that it's constant moving target, and you have to adapt, and that's, you know, as well as kind of the resilience, it is that adaptability. I think that kind of the ability to pivot, or the ability to change your mind and going a different direction is just massive as an entrepreneur.
I think to sort of draw back to partnership, it is tough. I think actually finding a business partner to work is probably harder than finding a life partner.
Yes, I would agree.
Because there's so much more dynamic that has to go into that. But I think where Ben and I vibe well off each other is trust was there from day one and has never been doubted. I think that's super important. And that honest and integrity falls into that. Work ethic's been quite a key one. You're not always going to be, you know, some weeks I might do more work and some weeks he might do more work, but we're not counting it. We don't know who won the bet more times, but you kind of know that they're going to give their best, and they're, you know, all cards on the table. And then opposing resources or skills is quite important, because I see, especially in the property industry, you know, partnership forms because they met on a course, and they're actually on the course because they're the same person. And they want to do the same thing. And then they end up just doing everything together. So they're sharing this business, which they're actually the same person, and they're going, well, I'll do that. And then, well, I can do that. And then Ben and I have always been massive fans of divide and conquering. And when we set up the businesses, we were speaking like literally every minute we'll be on the phone and be like, I'm on the spreadsheet, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Now, because we divide and conquer, I don't know what Ben's up to, because I'm doing everything front end. He's doing everything tail end, and we sort of do various different management tasks or directing tasks in different businesses. So when we actually catch up, I've spoken to him the least out of everyone in the business.
But that's shifted, because in early days, I
shifted
imagine
massively. At the start, it was
very different.
We were everyone.
Yeah.
We were HR, we were sales.
For sure.
So it moves around, and then I think Ben touched on it, is if your goals are aligned, if you can get all of those, quadrifecta, like 4 things on the right page, it's a good start. The problem with property, and also the blessing and the curse, is you can partner with someone on a deal to try it out. And then you can be like, okay, this works, now let's do more. You couldn't go and set up a startup business with someone and be like, let's try one.
Yeah,
because
let's
it's
try
a product.
business.
It's going to take years to get it off the ground. So that's a blessing and a curse in a way, because you might start a deal and then do another and then do another, and then you realise that it doesn't really work, and you're now in 3 deals that will take 2 years. So you do have to be quite careful with it. But.
So it's work ethic. I think that's a really good sort of nugget there. We've got vision, that long-term vision, skill set as well. I think those are really good takeaways when you're looking for the marriage, the perfect husband / wife. Anything else?
Not I can think of.
Okay.